Meeting of the joint boards of the Westminster School Board and the Wyndham Northeast Unified Union Elementary School. So with that note, we will do as we often do, introductions of who's here. So let's start with the people on my furthest right and do that, and then we will do the folks who are on the line. So that does mean you.
Excellent. My name is Ricky Adams. I'm our tech director.
Liz Hardy, principal, Westminster Center School.
Angela Cartier, principal at Grafton Elementary School.
I'm Jack Fryer, and I share the WNUESD on behalf of Grafton.
I'm on the same committee on behalf of Athens.
And your name is?
It's Lynn, excuse me.
I'm Cheryl Charles. I chair the Westminster School Board.
Andy House, superintendent of schools.
Team PLC, Westminster School Board.
All right, so now we're going to start, and I'll call names because that's probably the easiest to do. Karen, why don't you go first?
Okay, Karen Blanchard, Westminster School Board.
All right, sliding over, Charlie.
Hi, I'm Charlie Hutchison, Westminster School Board.
Krista, I think you're up next.
Krista Gay from Athens.
All right, and did I see Elise on there at some point? And I really can't see that far away. Elise, say hi to the folks.
She's the phone.
Elise is bashful and not talking, but she's here, I know that.
Yeah.
So with.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can now, thank you.
Okay.
We can.
It wasn't taking the mute. It's Elise Manning Sterling from Westminster for the WNUESD board.
Awesome.
Good evening,
Thank
everyone.
We're on to 3, which is adjustments to the agendas. I heard some suggestions for adjustments. Lynn, what do we have so far?
We would like to reverse number 6 and 7.
All right, so we'll put resignations after 7. All right, and is there any others that we need to make?
I think if we could add, just so we're keeping it note, because I'm just reading it says resignations. We do have appointments also.
So modify the resignation and appointments.
And then I also have a request from a teacher for a non-paid day off. So
All right.
if we could add that somewhere in there, that would be
So
helpful.
resignations, appointments, and personnel matters.
Exactly.
I will phrase that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so with that noted without objection, I'm seeing one. So we have made those adjustments. We are on to communications and public comments. Is there a non-school board member who has a view on something that they would like to speak on? I'm hearing deafening silence in that regard. Ricky, do we have anybody waving their hand that I can't see? All right, so with that, let's move on to reports, which are principal reports. We're having this meeting in part because I knew my principals had reports. So, go for it.
Just to give an enrollment update, Westminster has 155 students, 1 VTVLC student, and 2 students, actually, that 1 student who is we recently, I'm sorry, I was just, so that's what we're at. All right.
And at Grafton Elementary School, we currently have 39 students, 1 VTVLC student, 7 students who are homeschooling, and 3 students at the grammar school this year. And then I wanted to just note that at the end of this year, we're losing 3 students to Chester and 4 students to the middle school. And we'll be welcoming 3 kindergarten students and 3 students from Chester. And our projected enrollment for next year is 37.
All right. Andy, I'm wondering if at some point, perhaps at the next meeting, we might send out an open invitation to those folks who are homeschooling, both out of concern about whether we're meeting their needs. If they're homeschooling, the guess is maybe not, and to see what we can do to to meet those needs by encouraging attendance at the public school. I would hope we would send out personal invitations, and you can send one, I can send one, but I just think it's important to explore why such a high percentage of folks are not in the system. All right.
So we're going to move on and share some family engagement activities that we have planned for this spring.
Sure.
So the parent-teacher organization for Westminster team will hold a beautification morning on Saturday, May 14th at 10 o'clock. So that's to kind of re-landscape this front garden. We're using funds from the Farm to School grant to purchase perennials and to have some of the area dug out to freshen it up a bit. We'll also be holding an open house on Tuesday, May 17th from 6 to 7 o'clock, and we'll also release our virtual spring concert that night. Our 6th grade success night will be held on Monday, June 13th at 6 o'clock. This will be held outside in our garden like it was last year. It was just such a nice event that we wanted to remain outside.
And at Grafton Elementary School on May 4th, next Wednesday, our students and staff will beautify our grounds as part of our Green Up Day efforts. And in collaboration with our PTO and our Farm to School grant, we're going to plant flowers, a tea garden, and a pumpkin patch. And we're going to host a spring concert in person in the Grafton Elementary School cafeteria on May 19th. And then we are going to host our chili cook-off again on Friday, June 3rd from 5 to 7. And there's going to be a link in our newsletter to sign up. We've reduced the price to enter your chili to $10 rather than it being $20 like before. And then our 6th grade success night is the same as Westminster's on Monday, June 13th.
Earlier in the winter, we talked a lot about the MAP assessment that is held 3 times a year. We do have scores that we can report. Again, I just want to reiterate that this is one data point. This is the student's one moment. It is obviously not the whole child. We do look at growth patterns to identify need for intervention. We look at growth patterns to support teachers and to further learning opportunities for really students and teachers and staff. So for Westminster, between the English, the ELA test, which is a reading, from the fall to winter, the trend, the growth actually was in the negative, was a negative 5% growth. In math from fall to winter, the growth was up 3%. So the average growth compared to like the average, like they're growing, kids are growing, but they were down 5% of the rate that was expected in ELA, and then up 3% for the math.
Just because we get a small sample size, you feel there's some issues?
No, I think it could be a billion different assessment. I am more interested in watching it over time and watching specific students. So we went in and looked at specific student scores and then talked about what is that. This is one data point. How does this reflect to how you see the student performing in class, on other assessments that we give, and kind of looking at the child as a whole child and how can we support them? Are we supporting them? Are we not? Do we need to change things up? We've been doing this intervention. Does that make sense? Do we need to change things? Those are the kind of discussions we have as staff.
I also think there's, the test was initially taken right at the beginning of the year, and then you really learned a lot more about students. And last year, students didn't get as much as they would have, and so teachers are probably backfilling some of that, and so some of their growth isn't as indicative on this test because it's a grade level based assessment. So they might, like a 4th grader might have been doing work that they need from 3rd grade skills, but that's not necessarily going to show up on the test.
Yeah, and I think we're taking a look at it at SU wide, and I thought we would see a trend, across the SU, and we're not. We're seeing what I would call almost picket fences,
Yeah.
So like you would think all grades were going down or all 3rd grades went up, but it's across the SU, it's real, ups and downs, and so we want to really look at that to try and understand that kind of what both are saying.
And there's been a big shift in how we're teaching in the past 2 years. Teachers are moving to a workshop model in both reading and math, which, whenever you introduce something new, you're going to see a dip in some way.
All right.
Or the rise, right?
Right,
So
either
you wanna
one,
understand
yeah.
it too, and I think that's, because then we can make those fine tune adjustments as we go into next year, really.
Let me just say to Karen and to Krista and Charlie and to Lisa and whoever else
There's
is
Hardy
there.
also.
Hardy's here.
Is Hardy there?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Hardy. Hardy Merrill's joined us from, a member from Grafton. Say hi, folks, if you wouldn't mind.
Hi.
Good to see you, Hardy.
That was very long-winded. No, I'm just gonna ask you all, because the sun is in my eyes, I can barely see the screen. If you want to ask a question, just ask the question. Don't just stand in the ceremony or raise your hand, because I can barely see your screen. So if anybody wants to hop in and hit this, please do.
I actually have another question.
That's what,
Are you, so past the MAPS testing, is there a certain set of assessments kids get after the MAPS? So like to dig a little bit deeper into what the actual, if a kid had a dip or is in some level of concern with ELA or math, is there a specific diagnostic set of assessments that you give them?
We don't have that right now.
In the past, we had not, as an SU, gone that next level.
Okay.
Something we're looking at is, how do we parse out that information?
Okay.
Great question.
I think we might hear from Angela, and then I will have some questions.
Yeah. So also reporting on the same assessment in ELA from the fall to the winter, overall Grafton students went down 9%. And then went down 10% in math. But when I look at this, if you're looking here over my shoulder, Jack, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade went up. But the majority of the dip downward was in 1st grade. But if you think about their educational experience thus far, that's not surprising, right? So that, some of my 1st graders went down 49%, right? So that brought down the average, right? So, but as they got older, they went up more. So their growth was more. So that's not very surprising, but that's the reality.
Do you have questions about this specifically, or do you want us to continue on?
Well, if we could, you've spoken about the growth part of the reporting back. I know there's also a comparison to the universe of students
Like the national
in the nation.
achievement.
Right,
Yeah.
right. To show how our kids compare in terms of proficiency in those areas, in both math and the language arts areas. And I think I have an observation that is that whereas we as a community can be concerned about this, I don't want us to overreact, because it's such a complex set of things that have been going on for our children, for our community's children in the last 2 years. And their social and emotional skills are all in the mix with this, with academic. One thing I wouldn't want us to see is to overemphasize trying to get the basics in the language arts and math and forget their desperate need to learn how to get along with one another and to collaborate and to problem solve and to even have fun, to bring some joy to learning. So I would just tell our community not to overreact. We need time to work with this and to support the teachers, the support staff, and everyone else. But it's of concern, and it's important
And
to
I
know.
think, is this the 3rd year we've done math? I think this is the 3rd year. So the way that the test is there's almost 50 questions in ELA and math. That's kind of a lot. And how it's designed is just that the kids, correct me, they get half of them. They're supposed to get half of them incorrect, right? In order to find their middle.
Well, it's a constantly adjusting test.
I did map testing as a student. Am I the only one here that did that?
Well, like I had to take it as a student. I was just wondering, am I the only board member that had to do MAP or standardized testing as a student?
This is
Oh.
why you add value in so many ways.
One of the
Krista.
many
Thank you for
reasons,
this.
yes.
But I did MAP testing in high school, and the way it worked when I was there is it's on a computer still, and like based upon how you answer, it either like increases or decreases in difficulty. And so as Ms. Cartier was just saying, like you, based upon how you answer, the questions adjust. And so it does go up, and then down. And you'll know you missed a question when all of a sudden it gets substantially easier. So that's how it works.
Permit me to observe, the former student of the school system